man, Matt Nahigan, he's in the building wearing his Michigan pullover as he gets ready for the Rose Bowl. But the Niners win yesterday. What else could you say about Brock Purdy? What else could you say about Chris McCaffrey? What else could you say about Debo? What else could you say about George Kittle and his offense? What else? Well, there's a lot to say about this defense, something we'll get to in just a second here. But we're going to go to the lines, 888-957-9570. But Spadone, got to get your thoughts as we begin the 8 o'clock hour. This offense just dropped 45. They're averaging on the season 30.4 points per game.
They're one of the greatest offenses of all time, but definitely I think they're going to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest in 49ers history. I think that's just going to be without anything. As soon as you hit 30+, you start getting to the greats of the greats. Now, they're not going to touch, the Broncos, the Peyton Manning year. They're not going to touch, I don't think, the 07, Brady, Moss, Patriots. They're up there, though.
Yep.
They're going to be up there, and we're a week away from Christmas. And what better way to celebrate Christmas than the gift of the best head coach, best quarterback, best running back, linebacker, tight end, one of the defensive ends, left tackle. That's a lot of gifts, Bonte.
That's a lot of
gifts aplenty right there, just in time for the holidays.
If I'm not mistaken, this team has 54 touchdowns, offensive touchdowns on the season. Wow. 54.
It's pretty incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
54 offensive touchdowns. They've punted the ball. As I look at Mitch Wisnowski's stats here, they punted the ball 45 times. 54 offensive touchdowns on the season, just 45 punts. So the Niners have 54 offensive touchdowns on the season. New York Giants have 18. The Jets have 16. All right? This is the Niners in the last month since the bye week. They dropped 34 to Jacksonville. They dropped to 31 on Seattle. They dropped to 27 on Tampa Bay. They dropped to 28 on Seattle. They dropped to 42 on Philadelphia. They dropped to 45 yesterday. They have more touchdowns than those teams since the bye week.
Wow, dude.
Thank you, Chris.
That's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive for the 49ers.
I mean, it's pick your poison with this team. I can't help but laugh because when I watch them, there is at no point when I'm looking at the opposing defense, I was like, you're not stopping Kyle Shanahan. Like, what are you going to do? This guy is such a step ahead of everyone else. It actually reminds me of a movie. And today's Steven Spielberg's birthday, one of the greatest directors in the history. I think he's 76. One of the greatest directors of our lifetime, you would say, right, Bonte? Jaws, Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, E.T. Are you kidding me? Loved the E.T. ride at Universal Studios. Loved it. Actually thought we were flying as a kid. Freaked me the hell out. Started crying. But I just look at a movie like Catch Me If You Can. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, yeah, Tom Hanks. Yeah.
It's based
on Steven Spielberg?
That was Steven Spielberg who directed that.
Movie.
Frank Abagnale is who Leo DiCaprio played. Based on a true story. This guy was a master con artist, if you will, but he was always a step ahead of everyone else. That's what I got away from that. He was always constantly a step ahead of everyone else. Movie. Kyle Shanahan right now is constantly a step ahead of every other defense in the league. Wow, the guy is just a genius when it comes to getting everyone. Why is everyone so wide open? And why can't everyone replicate what Kyle Shanahan's doing? Well, not only is the personnel, but they're also just not Kyle Shanahan. Like, there's that coaching tree, right? There's McVay, there's LaFleur, Zach Taylor, right? O'Connell. Like, there's that little tree, but no one does it like Kyle Shanahan. No one. Catch me if you can.
Catch me if you can. I love Jerry Greenlaw saying, hey, man, we don't just rock NFC West division shirts. I want a Super Bowl shirt. You see Brock Purdy since the bye week, his passer rating, and I don't get caught up in the passer rating, but this is what I do get caught up in. Touchdowns and interceptions. Since the bye week, Brock Purdy, 17 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. When Nick Bosa made his push for Defensive Player of the Year last season, it was the final 2 months of the regular season in which he really started showing what he had. He had big games against Miami, big games against Tampa, big game against the Raiders. And you look at Brock Purdy, what he's doing. A big game in Philadelphia, big games against Seattle, big game in Arizona, big game against Tampa Bay. Ran a perfect passer rating. Big game against Jacksonville against Trevor Lawrence. I mean, this kid is playing at an elite level, and he's going to break the single-season record for most passing yards in the history of the 49ers.
I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Bob.
No, you're good.
The last box that needs to be checked might not even be checked with Brock Purdy. That's like come from behind victories, right? What can he do when he's down double digits in the fourth quarter? Or what is the Shanahan at? 8+ heading into the fourth quarter.
Well, who cares?
But who cares? Because you know what? They're a step ahead. Again, they're always a step ahead of you. Whether you think that he can't bring a team from behind, which I think is laughable, because I think he's shown at this point that he can throw at the best of them. They could run the ball at the best. They could do anything that you need them to do to get you back into a game. The thing is, they don't need to get back into games.
Don't.
They're dictating the pace. And you see early on in 49ers game, even yesterday, Bonte, the Cardinals got out to a 7-0 lead. There was not one point in that game that I thought the Cardinals were going to win that game.
No, of course
not. One point that I think they were actually going to pull that off. Even after the opening drive of the game, could be a trap game. No. Because this is what the 49ers do. We'll take your best punch. And I know people are calling in. They're worried about Fred Warner. They're worried about the missed tackles, stuff like that.
Well, that is a concern. I mean, it's not,
it
I'm not worried.
Now. Yeah.
But Jair Brown has missed tackles in every single game he's played. Big tackles that have led to big plays. And yesterday it led to a touchdown. But what's his name? DeMarcado. That can't happen.
It can't?
No. You got to wrap up.
There's going to be a shootout here, whether it's against the Ravens, whether it's against the Rams, whether it's against, even Washington, who's had some tight games this year. A lot of them, actually. There's going to be a shootout here. And I think Brock Purdy, when the defense, isn't carrying them like they have in the past, because I do believe the offense, as you've alluded to, is carrying them, there's going to be a point where Brock's going to have to put the team on his back again. And I think he could do it. That's the one box that I think people are waiting for you to get checked. It's fine, people. Believe what you're seeing in Brock Purdy.
Who's not believing in Brock Purdy?
It's Santa Claus right now. Seeing is believing, I guess.
No.
Come on.
Well, who's not believing in Brock Purdy?
888-957-9570.
Who's not?
You have some egg on the face if you're not.
I don't think there's 49er fans not believing in Brock Purdy.
It's interesting. Who's my guy out in the Athletic that had the quarterback tiers? Mike Sando. So they revisited the quarterback tiers, because we had Mike Sando, I think, on the beginning of the year, but when he did have the tier, the initial ones. So they revisited him. So he talks to, and Mike Sando does a great job, covers the NFL for The Athletic, formerly of ESPN. Very tapped in. He talks to a lot of league execs, GMs, coaches, a lot of people. There's still some doubters there, Bonte, across the league. There are still some guys with some teams saying, hey, if he was to be on, so-and-so. But I think that's dumb at this point. I'm tired of playing the game of, well, if you put him in this situation. I was like, he's in this situation right now, so we can only judge what we're seeing.
Exactly. I'm not playing that game. No. Let's go to MC in San Jose.
But there are still douters, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear you. There's always going to be haters and doubters, right? Steph Curry still gets doubted, for crying out loud. He's got 4 championships.
I mean, he missed a three-pointer yesterday. He didn't even make a single one. Guy stinks.
Yeah, snapped a streak of 268 games, straight games with a 3.
The guy can't even, greatest three-point shooter of all time.
Missed a 3.
My ass.
It's very slipping.
God.
MC in San Jose. MC, what's happening?
Hey, what's going on, Bonte? What up, Spadoni?
What's up, man?
Long-time listener, first-time caller. Appreciate y'all taking my call. I was just going to talk about how, man, this is the first time we actually had an offense that is carrying the defense. We've been spoiled the last, I don't know how many years. I mean, even go back to 2011, 2012 defense. That defense carried us all the way in. And, I mean, this is the first time we actually have an offense that is carrying the defense. And, our offense is our defense.
Yep.
Ain't nobody want to tackle those guys.
Nobody.
Ain't nobody want to see Debo when he starts get going. You know what I mean? Even George Kittle. I mean, dude, we haven't had this good of a quarterback since I've been watching. I'm 32, so I've been watching since 96, 97. And, man, I don't even know what to say, but this is the best offense I've seen in my lifetime.
You think it's a good thing that the offense can carry the defense? Because we've been waiting on this for a long time, saying, boy, it'd be nice if the offense can pick up the defense. Because, as you mentioned here, during a Harbaugh era, and in, of course, the first few years of Shanahan, when they started making this run towards the playoffs, it felt like the defense had to be played nearly perfect.
Well, look at the last 2 Super Bowls we went to. That was carried by our defense. And then what happened? We didn't have an offense. That 2012, the offense showed up in the second half because the whole lights went out and everything.
Right.
And then with Jimmy, we were up by 10 points, and then, we couldn't score. We needed to score. If we would have scored, if Jimmy Garoppolo would have hit Emmanuel Sanders, we ain't even talking about that, about losing that game.
Oh.
I'm just happy the fact that we actually have a fucking excuse my language.
Oh, dump that. It's all right. There you go.
It's all good. It's all good. He's fired up, and she's fired up. It's all good.
That's what happens on Monday. Victory Mondays.
Happen on a Monday. Victory Monday. Happen. People are fired up. We get it.
It's a great question, though.
But I will say this. Emmanuel Sanders catches that pass, there's still a minute 30 left on the clock.
And that's Patrick Mahomes on the other side. And
the
Hill
defense
and Travis
is gas.
Kelce. Yeah.
I get it.
888-957-9570. It's a very interesting question. Is it a good thing for the offense to be carrying the defense, Bonte?
So, remember the NFC Championship game against the LA Rams, and Troy Aikman, it sticks with me.
You love this one.
I don't love it. Because at the beginning of that game.
Well, you love Troy Aikman's assessment. I love Troy Aikman as an analyst.
He just told the truth. Before the game, Joe Buck asked him, what is it that you got to do in these games? He goes, well, I look at these big games and I say, who's not going to make the mistake? And I look at both of these quarterbacks and they put their fan bases through a lot. Jimmy Garoppolo and Matthew Stafford. Then when the game was tied at 17 apiece midway through the fourth quarter, and Troy goes, Joe, whoever did a really good job of stuffing the Niners run, and I'm afraid it's going to come down to Jimmy Garoppolo.
He's afraid.
And trust me, we were all afraid. Will we be afraid if it comes down to Brock Purdy? No, I don't think so.
No.
I'm waiting to see that so we could shut everybody up about Brock Purdy not having a comeback victory, this and that. I'm waiting to see that.
And I'm looking.
But is it a good thing, though? You asked me, Spinoni, is it a good thing that this offense has carried the defense? I think it could be great because it's an offensive league.
Yeah.
And all you're asking the defense to do, hold them to 16 to 20 points a game. Hold them to 16-20. We'll score our 30. We just need you to hold the other team to 20.
It's interesting. 888-957-9570 there. You look at last year's Super Bowl, right? There was the one mistake from Jalen Hurts, the fumble that was recovered for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
That was the difference of the game.
Yep.
Final score 38-35.
There you go.
High offensive IQ on both sides, and no one was stopping anyone. Hell, Mahomes on a bum ankle was going out there and running for his life and making plays left and right. So, you got to score in this league.
So I don't view it as a bad thing at all.
No.
This team is scoring touchdowns. Again, they've scored 54 offensive touchdowns. The Pittsburgh Steelers have scored 20. Hell, McCaffrey has 20 touchdowns himself. McCaffrey has more touchdowns by himself than the New York Giants, Carolina Panthers, and the New York Jets. The Jets have 13 offensive touchdowns.
That's embarrassing.
Panthers have 16 offensive touchdowns. The New York Giants have 18 offensive touchdowns. The New England Patriots have 20, and the Steelers have 20. Christian McCaffrey has as many touchdowns as all those guys. By the way, Raheem Mostert in Miami, he has 20 touchdowns as well.
God.
But Brock Purdy's thrown for 1,792 yards since the bye week, 17 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. So this team is this is the greatest thing about this offense. 2011, Alex Smith had a very good season, but they settled for way too many field goals. 2019, Jimmy Garoppolo had a very good season, but at times they settled for way too many field goals. This season, they're not settling for 3. We're not seeing a lot of Jake Moody. Well, actually, we're seeing Jake Moody, but he's kicking extra points, not 45-yard field goals, not 35-yard field goals, not 33-yard field goals.
That's the best spot for a rookie kicker. I don't need him. Right?
I don't need him.
That's the greatest thing you can say about him. And now they might if there's a tight game here or there, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But at the moment, they're playing so much far ahead. Again, I said it was catch me if you can for Kyle Shanahan because he's a step ahead of all these other defensive coordinators out there, except for Jim Schwartz. That's the only guy that has his number, it seems like.
May see him in the Super Bowl.
Joe Flacco. And the AFC's wide open. And you're kidding?
You might see Cleveland in the Super Bowl.
AFC's wide open, and they got a defense. And you know what? Flacco, I know he had 3 picks yesterday. He's getting it to Amari Cooper. He's getting this play.
That defense is nasty.
It's Myles Garrett.
As we watch on the screen, Christian McCaffrey scored that second touchdown. Great play by Brock Purdy to set the tone in the second half. Again, I thought the key drive yesterday was when the Niners took a 21-13 lead.
That back shoulder fade was so sick.
21-13 lead the Niners took. Brock Purdy gets hurt. McCaffrey a couple plays before gets hurt. Brock Purdy comes back in the game, makes a great pass, throws a great pass to George Kittle on an improv for 19 yards. They get the Niners first and goal at the 6-yard line. Then, boom, a couple plays later, hits McCaffrey. You're up 21-13. You still back the momentum. Then you come back after halftime, and you score in 90 seconds. Boom, 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 28-13, this game's over. And then they score 35 before the fourth quarter. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for the offensive security defense.
Well, it's interesting. We keep comparing this offense. We did it last week with the guy Rob Stats Guerrera doing a hell of a job. And he was saying, it's getting a lot of comps to the greatest show on turf. They won a Super Bowl that year, Bonte.
They did.
Based on what? Their offense. Their defense was good. Defense was good.
Defense is really good that year for the Rams.
And what do we remember at the end of that game? The defense did make the stop at the very end.
If you think about that, though, if you go back, what's crazy is because in January, it's going to flip. That year when the Rams won a Super Bowl, They beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC Championship game.
It was
Actually, no, that was the year before. I think this year it actually beat Philadelphia, and they beat them 27-24. It was the next year they beat Tampa Bay 11-6.
Yes.
But in the Super Bowl, they held down Tennessee, and then, of course, stopped Kevin Dyson short of the goal line.
Yes.
So the defense did show up. So we're going to need some defense here.
You will.
But as long as the defense...
But they were controlling. That offense was controlling the game. That was what I was getting.
I'm Kyle Shanahan. I'm talking to Steve. I say, hey, if you guys give up 20 or less, we're good. We're winning the game. That's how I feel about this offense. Give up 20 or less, we're good. Think about that. For opposing offenses, you have to come into the game against the 49ers saying, damn, if we don't score 30, we may get blown out.
I mean, Kyle Shanahan might be having flashbacks, Fonte. I hate to go back to 2017, February 5th, NRG Stadium out in Houston. 28-3 lead that Kyle Shanahan had. I know he gets blamed for it, but he wants his defense to... You talk about keeping your foot on the gas.
No doubt.
Keep your foot on the gas there, too.
Yeah,
if I give you a 25-point lead, damn it, can you keep it, Steve Wilkes?
It actually bugs me that Shanahan gets blamed for
it's
that.
Dumb.
But
it's dumb. But he,
you know what?
He, more than anyone else, understands you got to keep your foot on the gas.
You know what? And he's got some demons to exercise in the postseason.
Yes.
And I'm sure he's relishing the opportunity to do so because the Niners just clinched the NFC West for the second consecutive year. Let's go back out to the lines, man. Lines are lit up right now. Let's go to Waterman and Coto Madera. What up, Waterman? Good morning. Happy Monday. Happy victory.